it's nice to see something productive come out of this horrible last year, no? More than anything. Yeah. So, actually, just to both of you, and if you could answer individually, I thought we could start with this whole idea of how you both thought of it. I mean, considering that we were all locked up and, both of you look at time in a very interesting way. So, if both of you could just speak a little bit about how did this idea occur to you? Was it sort of happened over a period of time? Was this a fellowship and impetus for it? So how did this whole thing evolve? If you could perhaps start from there, and maybe Shreya, we can start with you and then move to Sudha.
Cool. So we had this course in like college where we were working on the documentation of visual culture, and this actually started out as an assignment. It was going to be like a print project. I'd written a brief essay of sorts, and it started as a print project where Rezo print and like it was going to be a zine originally, but then it I didn't have access to that infrastructure at the time, so I thought perhaps I could let it evolve into a film or a video essay of some sort. So yeah, that's pretty much how like the format was conceived, I guess. So yeah, that's how it began. Then again, it kind of with feedback and iteration with consulting different faculty, I kind of built it into what it became. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Right, yeah. And let's come back to this, yeah, after Sudha responds. We can follow up on some of it. Yeah, Sudha, would you like to talk about
Yeah.
it?
So it just came organically at a time when we were all just locked down, and I like there was no sense of future or sense of what would happen to, like myself or my practice. Like I thought I would make a film that maybe that year, and that was not definitely going to happen. And I was like, my father had a small accident, so I went back home in March, and I was there. Like my father lives alone, so and then the lockdown happened. So I and all the inter-district borders, everything was closed. So I got locked down at home, and I was there with my father, and then he fell ill again. Like he went through some serious illness at that time, which was like completely like out of like it was shocking for me and my brother, but we happened to be there thankfully because of the lockdown. So this came out of that time, because I was at home and looking after him and also doing household chores, but also being very anxious about not knowing what I like. So then I thought, I mean, shooting with the phone comes very naturally to me. Like it's something that I do. Like it's an obsessive thing which I do vigorously. Like not just now at smartphones, but like early phones when I was in college, when I was in the university. It was something that was, I think, that's very much part of me. So this came out of that kind of a practice, and I thought, at least I should edit and try and do something, like not forget. So this was the first, like I had written a journal entry when I was at home. I was journaling, so this voiceover was that entry, and later the video followed, and then I went on to make like a series of videos through the lockdown. So Backyard Diaries was a starting point that way. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting, because with both your films, actually, it feels like it's coming from this very diary space in its own way. It doesn't seem to be coming from a very formalistic, in that sense, like a very, yeah, that sort of an approach. And both of you use voiceover, right? So, but they're very different, coming from two very, very different spaces. So, I don't know, Shreya, and also like you use I mean, you do the scribbles on images and stuff as well, right? So that adds something else to the frame in a way. So I was also curious to know how this sort of way of telling the story came to you, because it's very, I mean, there's a way in which you've shot it. You've used a lot of stills. You've used scribbles, right? You've used voice in a particular way. So I don't know how did these ideas, in a sense, come to you? To tell the story in this way, to tell your narrative in this way.
So the stills and collages were like, so I had like, there's an artist Hannah Hook So I really, I love her work, the photo montage and collages and everything. So I thought I was gonna like, so it was originally a print project. So I thought perhaps incorporating a photo montage style would be interesting in like a 2D flat format. But then, like now that I had access to like video, I thought perhaps I could animate it. But naturally, time constrictions and all of that was like a problem. Time restrictions was a problem. So I kind of had to work around that. But then I've always like enjoyed doodling or making comics. That's been like a big you know pastime, like side thing that I've been doing apart from coursework. So yeah, I think that's also one place that it comes from. And plus, like that whole layers of meaning thing could also be like, I mean, maybe that happened more subconsciously. That's not something that like I thought, oh my god, I need to incorporate layers of meaning. That's not exactly what I thought, but like it might have happened subconsciously. It's something that I thought would look cool and kind of it had its roots somewhere in my work from like 12th grade and that whole obsession with this one artist, and it all kind of came together.
And this sort of a voice that you speak in, is that something that was scripted earlier, or is it something that after you sort of, how did that develop? The idea and the idea of the voice, did it grow together? Was it pre-scripted? How was that process?
So it was pre-scripted, yeah, but then it was like I had written about how like we were kicked out of college, and like naturally that whole the feeling of losing like this really precious time was it in terms of the tone and everything that was already that it was naturally going to come in any case, because the whole like feeling of having that whole feeling of missing out on something that really would have added so much value, that kind of it was lost. And like so think that the voice kind of evolved from there. I've not really, I mean, naturally I've scripted it, I've gone through iterations with like my friends and my peers and parents, of course. So everyone around me has seen like this whole process as it went. So I mean, it did happen organically to an extent, but once the writing had started, it kind of developed into something more structured and scripted. Yeah.
Right. And for you, Sudha, how is it? I mean, when I look at it, I also feel like maybe part of it came together in the edit. Like a lot of the, especially now that you're saying the voice was a part of a diary noting that you were doing. Would you like to talk a little bit about it? How, because there are different ways of looking, right? There's also photographs that you're taking. There's the voice. There's, of course, the moving image itself. So how do the three talk to each other? Like, how did that happen for you?
So, like before the lockdown, like in 2018-19, I had made this documentary with PSBT. So it was on this subculture in my hometown, which was centric on Hindi music, old Hindi music, records and radios. So that for that I used a voiceover because it was going back to Radio Ceylon. So it was about the voice, and I wanted voice in it. So somehow writing a voiceover for that documentary, I don't know that I have something for voiceovers because I remember when I was making the documentary, like mentors had urged me to try and use text, but I was sort of adamant, no, I want voice in this film. But also, I think now when I think back, like I really like Agnes Varda. So I love Gleaner Senai. So I mean, voice is something that I mean also like now when I think about it, I think the pandemic has also made me realize like I really cherish something very personal in my filmmaking. Like it's a very personal act for me always. So the voice somewhere brings in something very personal for me. But I know sometimes I feel it's a little self-indulgent. Like I also worry about it. Like, oh, should I be using my voice? Like literally my voice, it's already my voice. But yeah, but at least in those video series that came after Backyard Diaries, I continued to use voiceovers. Also because of the limited resources that you're working with in the pandemic, there's not much I could do with like a phone, and or like she said, I couldn't use animation, or like there were not many devices to play around with. And writing is something that comes to me, like I do that on a regular basis, not just for like films, but just penning down thoughts. So that is how voiceovers came in. But I think for like for Backyard Diaries, yes, like the voiceover came in first, and then these videos were also there, and I thought of a way to put it together. But the videos that followed, I think sometimes I edited thinking about a certain thought, but then I wrote a voiceover. So there are various processes in the videos that followed. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think it's also interesting, when I hear you both talk, I think both of your films are very personal in a particular way, but in two they express themselves out in very different forms, right? So, for instance, with you, Sudha, you actually even touch upon this whole idea of the worker figure, right? Expanding from your own middle class home, looking at that building being constructed. And with you, Shreya, it's more sort of, I don't know, it feels like a young person's film, when you look at it. So I think that's interesting to watch. But actually, because you brought up this whole thing of resources being scanty in a particular way, it's also, I think, I don't know, like somewhere to also, it could be interesting to think of what this making of this film, in a sense, what did it make you realize about your craft, like the kind of storytelling that you want to do. I was wondering, Shreya, if you could talk a little about it, because usually in the time of plenty, there are many things that, I mean, I can't imagine looking at a coffee filter maker and saying, let's make a film on that, or let's look at cats. Those kind of things may not happen, right? I mean, in the regular lives that we had 2 years back. So I don't know, what was that experience for you, looking at something so intimately, something which is so useless in a way, otherwise, not important.
So coffee became like very central to like my everyday list of things that I'd consume. So it was just coffee. Then there was aloo bhujia, I think, in some like parts of the day. So coffee and like it was like it was a like a household thing. Like everyone except my younger sister, we drink coffee. And for me, it used to be a very important part of my day. Like if I do not get my coffee, I will like, or if my coffee is not strong enough, I will not, I'll throw a tantrum. So it kind of stemmed from there. And like once, like a bunch of times, it had been like, every time we make filter coffee, from between the time we make it and the time like it's over and we realize you have to make a new batch, it was like, um, that's how I counted units of time at one point. So there's been like times where you leave the coffee filter for like 3-4 days and you don't wash it, and then it's like there's fungus on top, and you're like, okay, it's been a while since my last cup, and it's been like it's so I kind of started measuring units of time as like one coffee cup to the next coffee cup, like one you know like one time the first filtration to the next filtration. So that became like a unit of time. And because every day was like so similar, that it kind of was an anchor. Coffee kind of was like an anchor, like, okay, yeah, this is like day 1, day 3, day 6. That was kind of how, that's why I decided to look at coffee. So otherwise it was just something that was always there, so I kind of ended up looking at it a lot. So
Right.
yeah.
Sudha, what about you? This act of looking at every day so intimately as a film practitioner, like, I don't know, does it make you think about what your practice, how could this shape your practice? What could happen? I don't know. I'm wondering.
Yeah, but I think right from my graduation film, I had that thing. I mean, like I made a short fiction called I Test, and it showed at various places then. And I think even then, I was sort of, even when I wrote my dissertation on that film, every day was a term that came every day, sensorial. I mean, those were the things that I was working with, and I sort of tried to do that even in my documentary. So the videos in them were sort of an extension of what I was practicing in that sense, but in a very limited way, in that sense. So I had this, I mean, what I wanted, like right from my first film, I had looking at domestic spaces was something that was very important to me in multiple levels. Obviously, politically as a feminist, but also personally because I lost my mother like 10 years ago. So those spaces have different meanings for me, even for me as somebody who's working inside the kitchen and outside. So and also I always felt that every day is where a lot of things happen, but is not often like explored. Often when you want to talk about gender or any form of power that way, you always talk about exceptional circumstances. So I wanted to talk about something that was very, not talk about, but to sort of explore in terms of space and time, those everyday, everyday happenings. And I think the
Right.
pandemic in that sense, it was also a reminder of death for me, like in like not just for me but for the world. So in one sense there was a lot of talk about death which is not usually there. Like it's something that you sort of cross over, you don't talk about publicly. So for the first time I was experiencing conversations around me on death publicly. So uh, all of that I think, and my father was ill at that time, so all of that I think it was some in some way I was trying to stay sane in that. And also, even while being anxious, like right behind my house, like in the video, there were these migrant laborers, and then we knew they were walking for thousands of kilometers, and you like we were all feeling very like helpless at that point. Even though we were feeling frustrated and anxious, I was also sort of examining my own privilege at that particular point, because I could see right behind my house. And but we didn't know what to do about it. I felt very helpless in the sense that what how could you respond to this. So that video also was a response in some sense, but I know it was a very loaded response, because I couldn't shoot these people, because of course I spoke to them sometimes asking if they wanted water or something, but more than that I couldn't like there was distance for sure, and I didn't know how to bridge that distance. So now when I, because you asked about the voiceover, I want to go back to the voiceover, because that voiceover is also a way of uh, trying to bridge that distance.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, completely. Uh, I don't know. Okay, maybe one last thing, and then we can wrap because I think we're already out of time. I just wanted to ask you guys if there is any takeaway for you from this process. I mean, given that it happened in the middle of this once in a century, let's hope, sort of an event, it'll never happen again, at least in our lifetimes, once it is over. But what has been, as a creative practitioner, a takeaway that you think may influence your practice, your way of thinking from this time period? Shreya, would you like to go first?
Um, I mean, the whole process is very new for me because I've never made anything in like the video format before, except for like I don't know some like promotional stuff for college events. But I've never done anything where like I have had to construct something from the start to the end. And yeah, in terms of the medium, it was something definitely it was new. Apart from the technical aspects of it, I feel like a lot like there were I felt like I realized how much more guidance I require in terms of working on like any new medium, any new craft, and like it was like more than a film. I would think of it as like a video essay of some sort, where I feel like I do not know whether I could make the best of a medium in terms of how like with the time I had and with the resources and everything. So I feel like there's like a lot more to learn after going through this entire process of applying for like festivals and kind of sharing it with like other people and getting their feedback and a lot of it. And so that was another very like interesting part. Then of course, I mean, I learned that there is like what I made was like a very um, I think it was a very small it was intensely personal, and I did not know whether like future projects my work will be similar, or whether like how far it can evolve or any of that. So yeah, I think everything I learned in this this whole journey was something completely new. Like I'd never like come across this before, or I never like gone through this entire process, and I think that like gave me a lot. Yeah.
But I think that's so exciting, no? That you actually discovered, in a sense, another medium like video. It's so
Yeah.
interesting at a time, like so exciting. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what you'll experiment more. Who knows? they get hooked on to something like that. And for you, Sudha, what would be a thing that you would take away from this
Definitely,
process?
I think it was freeing in a lot of ways as a as a filmmaker. Like, I mean, of course PSB, the award and what PSBT gave us was indeed like a lot of validation, because I didn't think it would be seen by anyone. But then I think to not like be constrained in imagination was what I think. Because after this, I continued to make like 4 to 5 videos, and it really kept me alive because I was editing constantly. I was looking at footage. So in that sense, at least I reminded myself. Then I took on a full-time job also. So it was a reminder to myself, okay, I will still make something. I will still express. So yeah, it was really it really did give me hope in a very freeing manner, not to think of, oh, I will make short fiction now, I'll make a documentary within these parameters, I'll go out and shoot with my sound recorders. All that just disappeared.
Sure.
It was very freeing that way. Yes.
Yeah. It's so nice, no, that you actually find a nourishment for the brain in a time like this. It's really, really nice, actually. Yeah. So, I don't know, would you like to share anything else, or we can wrap, Purnima, in terms of time? Yeah. Would you guys like to talk about anything else, both of you?
Yeah, this one. So at Alpaviram, so it had come to our college. Arun Gupta had got a few films to our college, and I was introducing a few of them, and I introduced iTest. And I had the chance to watch your film. It was the first film festival experience I'd had. So that was like I'd seen your name in the list, and I was like, that rings a bell. And I remembered
Oh,
Alpaviram.
this is such a pleasant surprise. Thank you for remembering.
You're from NIT, Shreya?
Yeah, NID Kurukshetra.
NIT Kurukshetra. Right, yeah. Okay, great, you guys. Lovely talking to you. Sudha, you and I have met in another context, if you remember.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised.
So was I. But you see, our world is only that large, no matter what
Yeah,
we do. Yeah, but thanks very much, you guys. Yeah. Thank you very
Thank
much. Really lovely chatting with you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.